I am so delighted today to welcome Simone Netherlands, the president of the Salt River Wild Horse Management Group, to talk to us today. And one thing that I am so impressed with and really wanted to let people know about is that she and her group worked with local, state, and federal agencies to save these horses and protect them into the future. And I think something that has been so hard for all of us the last few years is feeling like we can't make a difference and nothing
Yeah.
that we are doing is saving horses. And so I
Mhm.
wanted to talk to her about the horses there and also her experience in working with different agencies and getting some traction because that is like the most important thing. So Simona, tell me a little bit about your involvement with the Salt River horses and what you've been working on.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Salt River herd first, right? Because
Yes.
that's the happy success story. And um, I gotta tell you, it does get so frustrating for everyone, right? And we're always asking people to call legislators and to call the BLM and to make the comments. And we're asking, right? And it might make people a little bit tired of always us asking to stand up for the horses. But I think that people are truly underestimating the difference they can make.
Mm,
And whenever there is such a big outrage, and you just saw it with the Roosevelt horses again too, when the outrage is big enough, we all make a difference.
mm.
And when it's just the hardcore people doing it, and some people think, well, I can't make a difference anyway, so what does it matter if I do it? That's when it goes wrong. So we as advocates, we cannot afford to, let our guard down or feel frustrated or say, oh, it's not helping anyway. No, no, that's absolutely wrong. You have to be crazy enough to believe that you can make a difference, and only then you will.
That's great. That's great. So how did you get involved with the Salt River horses?
Well, it's a long story. You want the short version?
Whatever
The
works.
nutshell version really is way back when I've always been into horses, right? Ever since I was a little girl, I've always been into horses. And I learned training horses completely the wrong way. So when I grew up, I started understanding that was the wrong way. So then I started studying all the natural horsemanship ways of training. And so, besides for my regular day job as a hotel executive, I was training horses. And one day, this really nice lady called me, and there was a horse that I had trained for her. And she said, you know what? I had heard that my horse had ended up at an auction close to you. Could you please go there and see if that horse is there? It was this beautiful white mare, right? So I went to this auction and I was very naive, right? This is it's almost 30 years ago now. I went to this auction and I was asking everybody, have you seen this beautiful gray mare, And I ended up sitting next to this guy, and of course I asked him too. And he said to me, and I'll never forget his exact words. He said to me, "Oh, honey, she's on somebody's dinner plate by now." And I was shocked. I was in shock. And that's why, it's one of those days you'll never forget, like 9/11 or, anything that made a difference, because that day changed my life. I became pretty much obsessed about following that guy around because he was the kill buyer and he had bought that horse.
Mm,
And so, a lot of people are like, wow, this is too ugly and too scary for me to look at or to understand. And I just felt like if nobody else is doing it, then it's my job to do it. So I followed the guy around. I purchased a lot of horses from him. I adopted a lot of those horses out. And the guy was a drunk and he was just not good all the way around. He had a lot of domestic violence charges against him. He had a puppy mill. And so, anyway, because I was following him around, whenever he left the bar, I would call the cops. So he ended up with 3 DUIs. And then I got really lucky. He had his fourth DUI all on his own, and he actually hurt someone. So he then had to go to court, and I was all looking forward to that because he was really going to go to jail for a long time. But I saw him actually packing up, and he was packing up all his panels. He was packing up everything. He threw horses in a trailer and his family, and he left. And I was calling the cops saying, look, this guy you've been looking for, he's leaving. And they said, well, we can't do anything until he doesn't show up in court. So I was so determined to get this guy in jail. So I followed him all the way from Arizona to Amarillo, Texas. And then I lost him. And this, mind you, this is 30 years ago. I'm not sure if I'm that crazy anymore today, but I just was obsessed with changing the way that we treat horses. It's absolutely awful. And so now, I'm used to the fact that sadly, slaughter of horses is completely legal in this country, although a lot of people think that it's not. And so from that point on, I started frequenting these auctions and noticing how many wild horses were at those auctions, right? I even found wild horses that had their brands cut out of them bloody because they didn't want no one to see the brands. And so from there on, I started to get interested in why are these wild horses ending up in slaughter? And so then I started documenting the roundups. So, and it's the same as it is today. And this is 20, 25 years ago, I was documenting the roundups and nothing has changed. And that's what's so frustrating. It's like we still live in the Middle Ages, right? It's like we're back in 1971 where Wild Horse Annie was so outraged about how cruel all of this is. And unfortunately, not much has changed in all of these years. And so I believe that what I did different than any other time is that I really looked for a win-win solution. So we didn't just protest. We did not just send angry letters, but we also offered the solution. So we had meetings with the Forest Service and we said, this is our proposal. And it was a 50-page proposal that laid out our entire fertility control program. And we said, we can reduce the population faster, better, more humane, and cheaper than you can by doing roundups. And this is not a false statement because now we're this many years later and we have done what we said we're going to do. We have put our actions or our money where our mouth was, in those meetings. So to this date, we have actually prevented 600 horses from being born. We only have 300 Salt River wild horses now. Sorry, there's a fly buzzing around. Yeah. Just imagine if we would have had 900 Salt River wild horses, right, we wouldn't have been able to stop any removals. Trust me.
No.
So had we been allowed to use fertility control back in 2014 when we proposed it, we would only have 160 to 170 Salt River wild horses. But because they didn't believe in it and they let it go on for so long, we weren't hired on until 2018.
So timing is very important.
Yes, because the government honestly, and I mean, some horse advocates don't like to hear about birth control, right? But I want to explain it like this. If we just had millions and millions of acres where wild horses could expand to without anybody being bothered by them, then I don't think we would need fertility control. And of course, we would love to see it that way too, where we can just let them roam and let them do whatever they wanted to. But because we documented the horses so closely, we know, we've seen the positive growth rate that they truly have, guys. They truly do grow very fast. I am not going to say they grow with 25% a year because that's a little exaggerated. That's not taking into account, the death rate by any means. But we on the Salt River had a positive growth rate of 16% a year.
Okay.
And we can prove it with our app. We have every horse that was born, every horse that died. And that's actually only a 65% survival rate of the foals in the first year. So 65% of the foals survived. But then after 2 years, those foals are having foals, right? So a herd grows exponentially. They don't grow evenly. It's not like it stays at the same because your foals after 2 years are having foals, and those foals after 2 years. So you have more and more mares that come into the breeding age. So we knew this from having documented it, and I think because we
Important.
sounded reasonable. Sorry.
It's so important to have documentation because the big
Right.
firm tends to make these decisions without having any documentation.
Yeah, that's true. They just kind of suck it out of their thumb, right? So, but we could prove everything that we say. So, because we had that documentation, and all we really asked for was give us time to prove it. Give us time to prove it. So, we worked very, very hard, and it is hard work. And I think that that's why the government is not giving it a fair shot. It is hard work, and you
Yes.
need the dedication, and you need to actually care about those horses because you need to recognize them, you need to name them, you need to keep track of where they
You have to
are,
have a
what their
cat,
home
you have to have a catalog.
territories are.
You have to have a
Sorry.
catalog with to identify the.
Absolutely, you have to. That's your first step.
Yes.
um but after all this time, we truly have proved that we did what we set out to do, and you would think that, like people like the Center for Biological Diversity would actually look at that and go, this is real progress, right? The public is happy because they still get to see the horses.
Yes.
The government is happy. We have never charged them one dime for our management. And the horses are happy, most of all. And that's the most important, right? Everyone can come and see happy horses, and they can see that this year we only have 3 foals on the Salt River. So we actually did 2 of those on purpose because we thought, oh, last year we only had 1 foal and it didn't survive.
Right.
So we let those horses be born because that's also important for the future to have some new, fresh DNA.
And
So
PZP is important to use because it's reversible and you can stop using
exactly.
it so that
Yep.
especially, say you have a horrible drought and a lot of horses die, you want to be able to maintain the population. You don't want to have it
Yep.
wiped out.
Exactly. So our project is basically a huge science project, right? Because it's in some of the science, it does say that they go infertile after 6 or 7 darts. And we just find that it's absolutely not true because the first horse we left open became pregnant 13 months after her last dart.
Mm,
That's nothing,
yeah.
And then we have one that we didn't leave open at all on purpose, and she became pregnant 8 months after her last dart, and that just shows you they're not infertile. These mares have had 6 to 7 darts, every year.
Right.
And so we're just finding that that's not true. So you do have to continue the PZP until you're ready to have some new DNA. And we're very happy about that because, like you said, it's really important. Had you been doing anything else, any other method, then you would be in trouble when you are ready to have some fresh foals in the herd, and we can do it anytime.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
So that's basically the story in a nutshell from beginning to end. I think that our secret was not being as extreme as some. And, we did threaten to sue the Forest Service, but it led to negotiations. And then that led to negotiating with our governor, who we were also very lucky with. And then that led to the state legislation, of course,
Uh-huh.
and that's how they are protected today. But I also always tell people, you know, don't get complacent because they're really not that protected. They're protected from harassment and killing and slaughter, but they wouldn't actually be protected from the actual government should they want to remove them. And that's why we keep communication open. We work with them. We show them how hard we work, and all of our goodwill of 100 volunteers working their butts off has really paid off because, the Forest Service sends people to us if they get a call about a horse. We maintain all of the fences so that they don't have to worry about it. We monitor the horse crossing so that, it helps the horses stay safe and the public stay safe. We do public education so that, people know a little bit about the horses. And we always ask them to stay 50 feet away, of course. So it's the whole shebang that we do that really helps the Forest Service out, because otherwise they'd have a big pain in the behind,
And they don't want to manage the horses. No,
they do
absolutely.
not want to manage the horses. So they're very happy that we are managing the horses. Yes. And what is a real shame is that there are still people that are not happy with that. Even though this is the best managed herd in the country, the Center for Biological Diversity still is suing the Forest Service. And they're suing over NEPA and the ESA. I don't know if you want me to go into detail on that, but they're just completely making up all of this stuff. You know the drill. Oh, the horses are ruining the environment, blah, 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 endangered species, this and that. And I say blah, 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 because they have not one bit of science behind it, Carol, not one bit of science. It's a narrative they just like to repeat, repeat, and repeat, and just hope that it sticks. They don't have proof that horses eat cottonwoods. I mean, we have proof on our cameras for many years with a game cam sitting on a lot of little tiny trees that the horses walk right past. The Salt River wild horses, they eat eelgrass, they eat mesquite trees, and some dry brush and the dry underbrush. And that's actually very beneficial for all of us in them preventing forest fires. So it's tiring. It's tiring because it seems like that battle, I don't know if it will ever be over, but I do want to tell horse advocates that if you truly care, none of us can afford to give up, because how do you know that you're not that drop that will tip the bucket in favor of the horses? You don't know. So you have to try. You have to. I really implore everyone to just motivate yourself to never, ever give up, or our wild horses of America are truly doomed without people being willing to go the extra mile for them.
Yeah. Well, that's just such a tremendously wonderful, wonderful message. And also your message about you don't say, okay, we won and everything's fine now. No,
Yeah.
we won and we keep going. And then, of course, you have another herd that you are very working very hard to help protect, which is the Alpine herd. And that hasn't been a tremendous success. And so you have been stuck in the position of trying to save these horses from being slaughtered, which is absolute worst possible situation for the horses.
It's been horrendous. It truly has. And I don't know how much time do you have, really? I want to make sure you talk your ear off. But so this is an example now of, so we have one example of how it worked and one example of how it didn't work, right? And people think that the Forest Service is one institution, but I have to tell you that it's not. The Forest Service has different regions, and within those different regions, there are different forest supervisors, right? So our forest supervisor on the Tonto National Forest, he is a reasonable guy. And he said to us, we've had 125,000 calls and emails, and I'm a public servant, and I'm going to do my best to listen to it. And that he did the right thing. He was even there at the signing of the bill. And we really appreciate him for really just taking his job seriously, that he listened to the public and he just wanted to give it a chance. Had we failed, he would have been in his right to say, look, this didn't work, right? But we didn't disappear. We were only 7 people, I think, back then. We only grew. We put our money where our mouth was, and we did what we said we were going to do. And so that's why it works. We're very, very grateful that we got that chance. So the reason why it didn't work with the Alpine wild horses, sadly, it's because those horses live in a very kind of remote part of the country. And that little town of Alpine, guess how many people actually live there?
How many?
It's less than 300.
Oh,
Less than 300 people live in the actual town of Alpine. And so half of those people hate the horses. Hate, hate, hate the horses. And I didn't used to say that word hate, but it's real hate. And we've really experienced it. And we've been in that forest and we've seen the horses shot laying in front of us in their bands. You could see how they suffered with the mowing of their legs and riddled with bullets, babies, moms, lead stallions all together. And then we saw all the horses that were still alive, how frantic they were, how scared they were, how confused. That whole forest was like a death, a horrible smell of death, and all of the crow sounds. It was the most eerie experience for all of us in that forest. And you can feel the real true hate against these horses. And people always ask me, how can you just hate wild horses? And I didn't used to understand it, but because we've talked to so many of these old timers, it's like, you know what it's like? It's like when your grandpa teaches you something, and then that goes on to the dad, and that goes on to the son. And back then, the settlers really saw wild horses as a huge threat to their livelihood. And the same goes for today. They believe that every piece of grass belongs to their cattle, and that if someone else eats it, that it threatens their livelihood. And the sad thing is, it's a perceived threat because it's not even true. You know, I mean, wild horses live perfectly fine together with cattle or with elk. I mean, they're all. If people could only get along the way animals do in the forest, life would be a lot better for everyone. But it's that real hate that we're fighting against. And some legislators have it too, and they stand up for that powerful lobby. And it's just what it comes down to. And Carol, you know this, is it comes down to the fact that everything on our public lands is making someone somewhere some money,
yes.
except for wild horses. So it's to their own detriment that they're not making anyone any money, because our public lands are like being exploited very much like the jungles of the Amazon. Our own public lands are being exploited for their resources. And that's what's really going on. And it's going to take our message reaching the greater public and not us singing to the choir all the time, because we have strong advocates everywhere, right? I know you've been in it for 20 plus years. I mean, I know all the advocates that have been in it for 20 plus years. And even though we're a strong community, we need to reach beyond ourselves. And the day that happens, I do believe firmly that the entire United States will stand up for wild horses. So we just have to keep plugging away until that day is there when all of America will stand up for them. And that's the day that hopefully something will change.
And in the meantime, you are having to save these horses from slaughter.
And in the meantime, they are ending up at horrible places like Cleburne, where they know very well that without us, without our contacts, they would have ended up in
Mexico.
And I don't even like to describe it to people. It's just the most god-awfulest thing we can do to these innocent creatures that literally we built America on the backs of these horses, and we're just an unthankful species.
Well, and
very sad.
And it's crazy because, rescue is not sustainable. I mean, there's not a place for all the horses that are being rounded up. There's
No,
there's not enough sanctuaries. There just aren't. So we
Yeah,
need to stop it and keep them where they live and
that's
manage
right.
them there, because otherwise it's not sustainable.
Yeah. They don't even care, I don't think, that it's not sustainable. They don't even care. They just want to see them destroyed, you know? And what to me, what the saddest part of it is it's not even the hate, which is disturbing, right? But it's they are not listening to reason, to real science. Like if there is a better way. I mean, it's 2024 and our way is truly the better way. If you reproduce our results, right, of having prevented 600 foals in 6 years, um, double that with huge, I mean, American Wild Horse Campaign does it on a much bigger scale too, right? And it is more effective than the way they're doing it now. And that's why it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then you end up
Because every year they breed horses on the range, right? We have another foal crop, just like in Heber, years and years of foal crops after foal crops. Very cute to go to Heber because there are foals everywhere. But those are horses that eventually are going to suffer greatly. The longer we wait with managing them in the field, the more horses will suffer. And that's what's so sad.
well, and right now on BLM land, public lands, there's 64,000 horses in holding right now,
Hmm.
and there aren't spots in long-term holding anymore.
Yeah.
And when you're spending most of your budget just
Same.
warehousing these horses, it's insanity. And it just doesn't make any sense at all.
It,
There are areas that are less populated. So Wyoming is my thing. And there are areas that just don't have enough volunteers. There aren't enough people there to do that. So
Mhm.
BLM staff would need to do that. They would need to reallocate
Yes.
their funds, which
Well, they
they
have enough
easily do.
money,
They
Carol.
they
They have
do that.
enough. If we can do it on $0, how come they can't do it on $140 million? Or what is it, 130?
Yeah, or more than that. And
Here it is.
people would donate. People would
Yes.
donate money if they knew that their dollars were going to preserve the horses rather than rounding them up.
Yeah,
So, the whole way of doing it is just backwards right now.
I know. I know, Carol, and you're such a staunch fighter too. And I really love the way you're approaching it now with some educational videos and stuff. And because sometimes I'm still baffled at how many people have like no idea, right?
Right?
Still.
No idea that there even
And
are wild horses, let alone
right?
there's a
I
problem.
mean, so many people, and people don't understand the difference between the BLM and the Forest Service. And then they don't understand the difference between this Forest Service and that Forest Service, right? Because that's complicated too. And it all just depends on where the horses live, of course. And it all just depends on, who's in charge. But what I would like to implore people, if I may,
Okay, please.
is that we really, so the Forest Service, the very higher up Forest Service in Washington, D.C., they have indicated that they want to do things a little bit better, that they have the desire to be better than the BLM. Now that's obviously not flowing down because, just look at the Apache Sitgreaves Forest Service. They have absolutely no desire. It's actually so bad that they purposely, discriminate us advocates and purposely do things to make things very hard for us. But we would really implore people to call and email Randy Moore, the very highest chief of the
Okay.
Forest Service. Um, he's not going to care about 50 emails, but he sure as hell is going to care about 5,000 of them.
Right.
And really, please, it's a simple email address and it's to his true email address. He really gets these emails. His secretary really sees what is in their emails, and it's randy.moore@usda.gov.
Great. And I'll
So
make
it's
sure that there's a link on your
Randy with a
website.
Y at the end at, yeah. Randy.moore with 2 O's at USDA.gov.
Okay.
And it's just an email, guys. Just get on your computer instead of making a comment on Facebook or any social media. Just send an email.
And
Just
what
if
should they say?
everyone truly would do it. I mean, us alone, we have 125,000. If he got 125,000 emails tomorrow,
Yes.
he would say, whoa, people are upset about this. And at least it would give us a stick in the door to talk about the better way.
Okay. And what should they say?
So I want people to say what's in their heart without cussing. Um, but, people say, oh, emotional is not good. I don't care. Emotional is good. Nothing has ever changed in the world unless people were emotional about it. So if you feel in your heart that wild horses deserve better, I want you to say that. I want you to
Okay.
say, Randy Moore, you're the chief of the entire Forest Service. And the programs under you are not treating wild horses as they deserve. And there are better ways. Please listen to the better ways for the sake of the public. You're a public servant. So open your doors to talks about the better way of managing wild horses in the field. That's all we want people to say.
Okay.
There's a better way. Quit treating wild horses like they are trash because they are our treasures.
Okay. That's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yep. And even a call. It's very simple too. So simple to make a call
Yes.
to, and it's easy to think that didn't make a difference because you're going to get an answering machine. I don't think people understand that's so wrong. You are making a difference and it only takes such a little bit of time. Just do it, guys. Just do it. Don't give up. Don't think you're not making a difference because unwittingly you truly are. But, if you go on with your merry day and you worry about your own life, like of course we all have to do, we will never make a difference. We have to
Okay.
believe that we can. You have to actually do it. Go do it right now, while you're making your sandwich or,
And
talking
tell
to
a
your
friend.
kid.
Tell a friend about it.
Tell a friend. I know. It's tell a friend, tell your family. It's just an email, it's just a phone call. And whenever you put out an alert, Carol, about the lander horses, it's how are these agricultural lobbies still winning when these are our public lands? They are not special interest lands,
No.
They're not their lands. They have allotments, but they don't own it. These lands are set aside for the public of America, and the public of America wants to see our American wild horses treated humanely.
Yes.
And that's overwhelmingly
And
clear.
continue to see them. Period.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Robin Silver goes, oh, we think there should be 50 wild horses on the Salt River. And we're like, really? How would the public ever see them? Like you
Right.
wouldn't be able to find one,
No. Exactly.
Good
Exactly.
luck finding one. Yeah, it's the whole thing. Yes, it's very frustrating. And you know that, Carol, but we just have to stick it out. We can never, ever give up for these horses. I always compare it to these horses actually fought our battles, right? In all of the wars, and they carried our mail and they plowed our fields. And very much like they fought for us and with us, we have to fight for them.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
I also wanted people to know where they can find out about the Salt River horses and your website.
Yeah. And 2 weeks from now, there's another Alpine wild horse auction.
Oh, yes.
It's very frustrating, Carol, because we've saved 338 plus these last 27. What's that? I can't even count it out in my head anymore. So that's how many we've saved. And we have literally contacted everyone we know, everyone we know. But without homes, we can't save these horses. So yes, we need money to save them. They
Yeah.
went for an average of $900 in this auction. And we didn't raise enough money, Carol. It's putting us in a very bad financial spot because we're not smart enough to say, oh, we don't have the money, so we can't save this horse. So literally, we can't do it. It's not possible. Um, so we saved them all anyway. And, it's a collaborative effort. It wasn't just us, it's some very good rescues that we're so thankful for, stepping up. And, but we won't be able to do it this next time. We will not be able to save these babies. And we believe it's going to be all babies and yearlings because we did not see them at the auction. So we're missing the babies and the yearlings. So probably that's who's going to be in this online auction. And anybody can go to this auction, by the way, and buy these horses.
And they're they're the most adoptable. The young
the Alpine horses are amazing. They're so
they're the most adoptable. I mean, they're not somebody who needs to be at a rescue for the rest of their lives. They could actually be gentled and sold and put in good homes.
They're super trainable. Yeah. I think we really do love it when people take two because they do care a lot about each other. I feel like they're kind of lost and miserable for the rest of their lives.
Yes. One horse by itself is miserable. Yeah. You need two, at least.
So they love each other. So if you would like to get two Alpine wild horses, and they're so gorgeous too. They're a little bit taller than Salt River horses, so a little more adoptable, right? They're a little bit taller, they're strong, they have great hooves, and they basically tame themselves. All you have to do is sit with them when they're eating for 2 weeks, and they're tame. I'm telling you, I have a whole band. I have Apache's band here. I'm looking at them right now, literally, out of my window. And they're on 10 acres. I've never put them in the round pen. I just go sit with them when they're eating, and 2 weeks, and they're tame. I've never asked a thing from them, and they're all over me when I go out there.
So what's the best thing that people can do at this point to help with this?
Yeah. So it'd be amazing if you could reach a lot of people, Carol, that really would call and email Randy Moore.
Okay.
At the Forest Service, and just tell him how you feel and that his program is not working and that it's cruel and that he needs to be open to the better way. So second, if you know anyone at all who's interested to own two Alpine wild horses, please contact us. You can contact us on our Facebook page. You can contact us by email. So we really need those homes. And if we can find enough homes, then we can save these next horses. But without the homes, we just don't know anymore. We're like at our wits' end, unless we win the lottery and can buy a lot of land, or someone wants to donate some land, that would work too.
Yeah. So
but those are kind of shots, right?
Go to Salt River Wild Horse Management.org, right?
So our website is Salt River Wild Horse Management Group.org, or for short, SRWHMG.
Okay.
I don't know if you can remember that.
Yeah.
Salt River Wild Horse Management Group. But if you Google it, it usually comes right up.
Great.
So we have all kinds of things you can do on our website. You can donate, you can volunteer if you live locally, but you can also volunteer to do some online things too. We have a lot. Our volunteers are our PR firm. We don't have a PR, and it's what our volunteers do. So we need money, we need homes, and we need a miracle.
And people reaching out to Randy Moore.
Yes, and people not underestimating the difference they can make with just a few minutes. Don't underestimate it. Just do it.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Well, thank you, Simona, for, all this information and for your message about wild horses generally. It's very, very helpful to everyone.
Yeah, but I mean, I share your concern too on the lander horses. And who are you asking people to email and stand up to on that in that regard?
Well, I'm asking people to go observe.
Okay, observers.
Because it is the most important thing to have the public there, because the contractors treat the horses better. And if there's violations that occur, we need to be able to be on top of that.
Yeah, but it's hard for people, right? Because You got
It's
to take time
miserable.
out of
It's
your
absolutely
life.
miserable being out there
Yeah.
observing. It's miserable, but it's
Oh,
so important.
it really is. It really is. I know that that American Wild Horse Campaign will have some people there.
I'll be there
Um,
for some of it
that
as
you'll
well,
be there.
and
Okay.
I've been out, and a lot of people are telling me, are messaging me and saying, I'm gonna be there, and I so
Awesome.
appreciate that.
Awesome. That is awesome, Carol. I mean, it really does take people with the amount of dedication that you have too, all of us old timers, it's like we just need to find the next generation of the ones with the passion and yeah, I hope you could get a lot of people out there. It's the only way.
Yeah.
Got to get our message out there and I've seen it too, the BLM is so much better when there's people watching. That helicopter is even nicer,
Oh, yeah.
when there's people watching. So it's really important that we're a witness, even though it might seem like powerless, because it's awful being there. Um,
It does make a difference.
it makes a difference. We have to bear witness. And so I'm very thankful for people like you, Carol, too. You do so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all that you do, and I so appreciate your coming on to talk to people and let them know about this.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.